The first thing that we need to do when we're building our rocket is we need to build what's called the airframe. And the tools that we're going to need, I need a ruler, a pencil, my scissors, I have some glue, I have something called gummed tape, and gummed tape is tape when I use my moist sponge and moisten the back of the tape, it's going to become very sticky. I also have a square, and I have a piece of printer paper, and I have a tube or a mandrel to begin to wrap this around. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take this tube, move these supplies aside for you, and I'm going to use the paper in the long direction, and I'm going to wrap it around this tube. Make sure you keep the paper very, very, very tight. As tight as you can make it. So as I turn this, I'm tightening it down really tight. Now I need to keep this together, so what I'm going to do is take a little bit of my glue and spread it right along that edge. I'm going to use my finger and spread the glue out here a little bit, just so it doesn't make bubbles underneath there. There we go. I'm going to wipe my finger off on the sponge. And now I'm going to wrap this up. If any glue oozes out, what I want to do, I actually got a little bit on my table, I'm going to get rid of the extra glue using my sponge. Now that's nice and tight. Now this is the first layer of my rocket airframe. The next layer is going to be a layer of gummed tape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a strip of this gummed tape. It needs to be 11 inches long. I'll open this up. I'm going to measure it and mark it to 11 inches. There we go. And I'm going to cut this nice and square across the end. There we go, an 11-inch long piece of gummed tape. Now, in order to get this to be secure to my first layer, I have to put some moisture on it. I'm going to use the sponge to get some moisture on this. Now, I'd like to make sure that the seam for the first layer is covered up by this gummed tape. So I'm actually going to start right on that seam, and you will notice that the tape doesn't wrap completely around. There is going to be a little spot where it doesn't totally meet, but that's going to be fine because I'm going to be putting another layer on this next. So I have my two layers. What I like to do is make sure the tube slides in and out all right, because if this tube doesn't slide in and out, it means you've glued the paper to the tube, and we don't want that to happen. The next thing that I need to do is I need to take another piece of gum tape, and this time I need to put an angle on the end of it. So I'm going to use my square, and I'm going to put a 45-degree angle right across the end of this piece of tape. I mark out the 45-degree angle, and now I'm going to use my scissors, and I'm going to cut this. Now what I like to do is, before I put any moisture on this gum tape, I want to practice to make sure that it's going to work the way I want it to. The idea here is I'm going to start in this direction. I'm going to start about halfway down on the tape. I'm going to start right about here, and I'm going to begin to wrap it. As I begin to wrap this, you're going to notice that it's going to overlap. And it doesn't quite overlap here the way I want it to, so I think I'm going to start my gum tape down a little bit closer to the end. And this piece of gum tape is 24 inches long. So I'm going to wrap it around here just to make sure that I have enough material. And it's going to spiral all the way up. And that looks pretty good. Matter of fact, I think I'm going to actually start a little bit lower this time, but I'm going to moisten it. Get a little bit of moisture on here using my sponge. And the glue is water soluble that we're using here, so if you get this on your fingers, it'll dissolve in water. Don't worry about that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that my tube, my plastic tube, doesn't stick out the end, because I don't want it to get stuck to my gummed tape. I'm going to put the gum tape right here and start going around. This is my finished product. There we go. I'm going to spin it right around and try to get this as tight as you can. I'm pulling very hard on this. This is a good time to have a partner helping you keep this tight. And my fingers are getting very sticky right now from the gum tape, but that's all right. I can wash them off later. Notice that I keep getting all the air bubbles out of it. I'm going to push it down nice and tight. Then I actually slid the tube down from this end just a little bit. And there we go. And what I can do next is I can trim off some of the extra here. There we go. Now I'm going to set this aside for a few minutes and let the glue begin to harden up just a little bit. So that's how we use 3 layers to make our airframe.